Welcome to Sew and Tell, where sewists from fashion theater and indie sewing bring their different perspectives to the hottest topics in the sewing community. I'm Meg Healy.
I'm Kate Zaynard.
And I'm Amanda Carestio. Today on the podcast, we are diving into sewing menswear, and we have a very special guest, Julian Collins. Julian, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited, really, to be here.
We are so excited to have you and to talk about menswear just in time for maybe some holiday sewing. Either way, I know this is going to be a really inspirational conversation. After we have our chance to talk, we will each share a little something in our Sewjo segment and answer a listener question. And before we begin, how are y'all doing?
I can't think of anything interesting to say about how I'm doing right now. So I'm doing well. Somebody else talk, please.
Julian, how are you doing?
I'm good. I cannot complain. Things are really good as we're going into the holiday season. Just kind of keeping busy and trying to find new things to sew, just to have some fun.
Oh, yeah.
Terrific. And buying lots of fabric, right? And
yes.
And eyeglasses. Because I don't know if you know this, but you are an eyeglass influencer now, at least in my life. I'm always so excited to see what new glasses you have because they're all terrific. I think you just look great in glasses, but I'm on the hunt myself. So yeah, you're an eyeglass influencer.
Well, thank you. As I literally have maybe around 10 pairs of glasses sitting around me that I can switch in and out between meetings.
I love that so much.
Now I feel bad I put my contacts in. I had green big glasses on. I should have kept them on to show Julian.
Yeah, you have good ones, Meg. You do.
Yes.
You do.
Yeah, I only have 4 pairs, but they're a good 4 pair. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, mine are super boring.
Well, terrific. Yeah.
Well, you need a balance. You need to have those fun ones, and you need to have those that are, as I call, more that I can wear to work when I really want to be serious. So I have a good balance.
Yeah, I need to get some fun.
And then I have the ones that are like covert.
Yeah. Covert. I like it.
You need the fun ninja ones so that you know that they're fun, but on camera and in professional settings, they look serious enough.
Yeah, serious enough. Wow. I like it.
Yeah.
Words to live by.
For sure.
Well, let's go ahead. Let's jump in. And Julia, before we really get rolling, I wanted to give you an opportunity to just tell us about yourself, your sewing history, your personal history, anything you want to touch on for folks who may not know you.
Sure. Hello, everyone, again. My name is Julian. I am the person behind Julian Creates on Facebook, Instagram, and all the fun social media places. I have been sewing since 2016, mostly menswear. I learned mostly from books and YouTube, but I come from a family that is creative. So my grandparents, both my grandmothers sewed, my mother sewed. I actually started college for fashion design, but realized—
That's awesome.
It lasted maybe a quarter. It didn't last long. I realized I like the creating of garments more than the designing sometimes. So kind of had to come about it on my own. But since then, really just have been just going. I have found my love in masculine inspired fashion, making sure that fashion is really gender expansive. I focus of course, on the menswear masculine side, but really feel that this community can be for everyone. So I have created a Facebook group called So Manly. Everyone is welcome when we focus on masculine inspired fashion. I also love to get tongue tied. That's just what I do. Yeah, that's really me in a nutshell. I work in public health when I am not sewing.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we got to do something fun together recently. We got to film 3 installments of Sewjo School as part of your relationship that you have with Bernina. Are you officially an ambassador for Bernina?
So I am an ambassador and I am an expert. So awesome. I was the kind of the face behind the release of the Bernina L860, their newest serger. But I also am an ambassador and I love their machines. And I I would say that I'm a collector of machines.
You're in good company.
It might
here.
be a little bit.
Yeah. And I knew this about you.
It might be a serious collection. Maybe a problem to some. But yes.
I love that. And I also love, I feel like, particularly through your work with Bernina, I've seen your face pop up so many places in relation to that Sewjo release. And it's really lovely to see some diversity, to see a friendly face and be like, yeah, I know him.
It's been a really
terrific,
cool experience. Yeah. It definitely not something I ever expected, but I'm loving meeting all the different people around the world, really. So it's been really cool.
So cool. I'll mention, without giving too much away, that you're also going to be doing a menswear column for Sew News, and I am so happy to have you as part of the magazine. That'll be kicking off early next year in 2022. Really great to have your voice as part of the magazine. And yeah, I thought maybe let's start there and just we could go kind of round table and talk about everyone's menswear sewing experience. Julian, you probably have the most. Let's start with you.
All right. Well, yeah, so when I started sewing, I thought, I remember as a child when I liked fashion design, I used to draw dresses and a lot of women's fashion. But then when I started sewing, I realized I like sewing for myself more. I think my second project that I ever made was actually a men's button-up shirt. Most would say that is not an easy project to start.
Yeah, I would say that.
But I think because I just went in blindly, it just kind of gave me no fear, and I just kind of kept on going from there.
The less you know, the better. Sometimes you just dive, right in. You're not questioning things, for sure.
Absolutely. And once I figured out I'm going to always just kind of have a sense of this is a fun journey. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just going to have fun with it. And at the end of the day, I've learned something in the process. So that's kind of the attitude I take to sewing, and have fun with it. So I've sewn a little bit of everything in the process, from accessories to masculine inspired fashion to women's wear to dressing weddings, all different type of things in that time frame. And it's really been pretty fun and cool. And once I kind of know the things that I like, I feel that a seam is a seam. So I know a lot of people are sometimes scared of sewing masculine or menswear fashion, but a seam is a seam. If you can sew a seam in a dress, you can sew a seam on a pair of pants or in a shirt. Just give it a try.
I feel like I need to put that and put my studio. I love that
t-shirt. I want a t-shirt for sure. Mm-hmm. Meg and Kate, what about you two? Have you sewn any amount of menswear?
Meg, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I can go first. I've sewn just a little bit of menswear, but I just also wanted to touch on what you earlier said, Julian. I also went to fashion design school, and I found my journey through my favorite classes were the pattern, the pattern making and the construction. We'd always have to come up with a target customer, and I wasn't good at designing for other people. I was really good at designing for myself, because that's what kind of got me into sewing. I started young, so I totally relate to you on that level. And going for fashion design school and then coming out as not being everyone thinks you just go and you just want to be this famous big fashion designer, but there's so many aspects that you can learn in that course. So I just wanted to touch on that. But then again, we didn't learn menswear. And I remember there was a few men in my fashion design school, and they're like, is there any menswear in this? It was a 3-year program, and there actually wasn't. And it was a bit interesting. Yeah. But again, seam is a seam. But once I established sewing for myself a lot, I've sewn a lot for my husband, who his name is also Julian. So if we might be a little confused this episode, but if I say Julian, I might be referring to, I'll say my husband instead of Julian. So I've sewn a lot not actually a lot. I've sewn a lot of jackets for him and shirts and things like that, and pajama pants. But I do want to do more sewing for menswear. But I definitely have some some experience. Yeah, and I think the first thing I made for him was like a classic button-up shirt, but I had already made myself one, so it was pretty easy. But he just loves, like, he's an artist himself, so when he saw these funky fabrics, like, he has a donut shirt. Like, I had this donut printed fabric, and he's like, can you make me a shirt out of this? Can you make me a shirt out of that? And so it was great that he could express himself artistically through the clothes that I made him, and that's really fun. So I do want to do more for him, because then once I get, I'm kind of a selfish sewer a little bit. I sew one thing for him, and then maybe I sew like 50 for me. I should really close that gap.
I think that's a good balance. Yeah. I think that's okay.
Yeah. 1 to 50. I love it.
50, yeah. How about you, Kate?
Well, for me, as I've mentioned before, again, sewing for myself is really kind of an awesome thing for me, because I started out in the theater sewing for other people. So I think, So I think in the past, I don't know, however many years I've been out of the theater, I've sewn my husband like a t-shirt, and that was about it. And I'm sitting here trying to remember back in the day when I was in the theater, a lot of the time, the menswear was easier and faster to just buy, because it was usually not anything that needed to be super special. I mean, if you needed a pair of black pants, you could buy or pull from our stock a pair of black pants, and you didn't really need to make them. But then every once in a while, you had something. I remember once we were doing Pinocchio for the kids' show, and so I got to make a pair of lederhosen out of a lovely mustard yellow velour. That was
that sounds actually so cool.
It was very cute. It was very cute. And that was my first welt pocket, and it went surprisingly well. So that one sticks out at me.
Very welt.
Yes, it went very well.
Ding. Ding. Ring the bell.
Oof,
adding it to the count.
I couldn't resist.
I know that's totally cool. I wish I had thought of it first. And then the other thing that jumps to mind, and I think I've brought these up before, but when we did the full Monty, we had to make some breakaway G-strings.
Yep.
So, yes, I have had extensive practice in sewing breakaway G-strings in metallic stretch, red metallic stretch fabric. So there's that.
I don't think there are any like sewing milestones left for you after that, Kate.
I mean, I still haven't made a pair of jeans.
Like, it's true. But it is so funny. I feel like with your theater background, like there are just so many random things that you have been able to check off your list that I'll probably never get to.
It's true. I have made some very strange things.
Yeah. Kate, I'm still waiting for that pattern too.
Oh, I don't have it. I'm sorry. It's a part. It belongs to the theater, and I did not pull. Though I did actually save one, so I guess I could do a copycat pattern off of it.
I think there's a market.
I definitely think there's a market.
If there's a market.
Well, we also had to make a set of non-breakaways for one of the other scenes, so there were a lot of G-strings.
Definitely not as fun.
No. Yeah.
Oh, I love how this conversation turned.
Yes.
I'm going to bring it back around.
Yes, Amanda. What menswear sewing have you done?
Yeah. Mine is really boring compared to that, but it's mostly been sewing for my husband. I've made him a jacket, a cardigan, and tons and tons and tons of elastic waist pants and shorts. And I will say he actually wears those like all the time. Like every day he's wearing elastic waist pants that I've made him.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So I feel like it's not very exciting, but it's been very useful, and he wears them very proudly. And I have a few more makes on the list I haven't made as many tops. I haven't made him a classic button up yet. And that's on my list. So I will get to that next. But yeah, really, really wearable wardrobe type things. Let's jump into patterns a little bit. And Julian, I wanted to start with you because, again, I don't want to give away too much, but your first installment for Sew News talks about sourcing patterns, and you had some really unique ideas there. You don't have to share all of them, but maybe a few of the highlights. And I also wondered, maybe touch on that. So your tips, and then if you have general thoughts about the variety of menswear patterns available today, I'd love to hear your notes on that.
Sure. So I think it's easier to start talking a little bit about the landscape of patterns now first. It's a little slim.
Yeah.
I think we see a lot of the same things. And you can only make so many t-shirts and pajama pants or things that kind of follow a 90s silhouette, which is a little bit with a lot more ease than some of your current things that you see on the runway. So it does take a little bit of work to find patterns that you're wanting to wear, that people are wanting to wear, or patterns that are very size inclusive so that they go through a wide range of sizes. What I have found is that, of course, the internet is your friend here, but don't just kind of stick to your regular English or European countries.
Yeah.
I look everywhere. And I found so many different options, and there's so many different stores and sites. And with Google Translate, I can get many places, really. I get really far.
Oh, yeah.
So have some fun with it. And I think that I found a lot of patterns like in a lot of Latin American countries. And there is different places that offer upwards of 1,000 different men's style patterns that you don't normally see and you don't really hear people talking about, but they're really neat and really cool. So have some fun and let Google be your friend and just kind of go down a purposeful wormhole and see what you find.
I feel like your article definitely opened up some ideas for me. And because I agree, I feel like you see a lot of the same thing over and over again. I also have been really happy about more of the kind of unisex styles coming out, because I find that those are the styles that I'm kind of drawn to. And if I can like buy a pattern for my husband, but also plan to use it for myself, like that makes me really happy. Like to sneak it in there whenever I can. And I feel like there may not be more patterns available, but there's definitely a little bit more awareness of men who are sewing, women who are sewing for men, people who don't want a design either way. They just want, you know, basics that they can use every day, and it's not feminine or masculine. Yeah. So I do feel like I'm happy that the industry as a whole seems to be headed that way, but probably a lot of catching up to do there.
Definitely. I think that what I found, especially your indie or your smaller companies, they're able to navigate, they're able to transition, they're able to shift quicker than some of your big four patterns. So you are going to see some of your different shapes and silhouettes and cuts quicker in your smaller brands than you are in your larger pattern companies. But I like to take the notion that literally once I make it, it doesn't have a gender. Yeah. So I don't mind looking at any different pattern company or pattern style. If there's something I want from it, I'm going to take it and smash it in with something else. So I let the world be my oyster, and even going through vintage patterns and different pattern books. And I like to learn and explore. So let the journey take me where it's going to take me. And there's some different little tidbits and options that you can really find that can really be helpful.
Yeah. I will say up next on my list, the shirt for my husband is actually a Muna and Broad pattern, which is not drafted for men, but it's super size inclusive. And my husband is plus size. And I feel like that is, if the menswear bucket is small, the plus size menswear bucket is teeny. So, and he's definitely, he doesn't care either way. He just wants some really nice ICAT button-ups. So he doesn't care if it's technically a women's pattern. I'll also say that I've been watching some of the new releases from Norris Danta Ford, particularly with Simplicity, some of his athleisure looks. And I was like, I want to make that for me for skating. Like they're totally, so I don't know. It makes me happy that I feel like maybe some of those barriers are just becoming to mean less, and we can just all kind of sew what we want to sew.
Oh yeah.
But it's important definitely to have options.
Oh, totally. And I think with Mimi and Norris working with Simplicity, I think we have seen that expansion in style, but also in sizing. I think that they have some really great modern fits and patterns that do go up to a larger size range than compared to even like Berta or Vogue or something like that. So hopefully we will see that kind of spread throughout all of Big Four brands in terms of sizing soon.
Yeah, you just a story rung a bell when you said once you make something, it doesn't have a gender. When Julian was helping me film a episode of Style Revive, and I made a kind of a nightgown, like this beautiful like muumuu type thing out of a tablecloth, and it was all starry. And he's like, "Can I have that?" And he wears it like all the time, like this, like. And I was so happy. I was like, "Of course!" Like it was amazing, and yeah, it just like. You like it, you like it, no matter what. And it was a, simple. It was the Peppermint pattern, Peppermint magazine, their everyday dress, and it's just it was nice, and he loves it.
That's great. It goes back to, especially as sewists, we are the creators.
Exactly.
So let's create it, and once you create it, you make it into whatever you want it to be.
You get to define it.
You get to decide what it is. So.
And speaking of patterns, I was wondering, we talk a lot of TNTs on here, tried and true patterns that we make again and again. Do you have like one standout pattern that is your like TNT?
Probably the shirt that I have made the most is the Simplicity S8753. I wrote that down so I wouldn't forget the numbers. But it's a great basic shirt. And it has a place where you can put in the collar stays. You can do it in a more of a boxier fit, athletic fit, or true slim fit with darts. Sometimes I cuss that pattern out at times, but it gives me the basics that I need to make any shirt that I want. So that is a pattern I go to again and again. It's like one of those patterns. Anytime there is a sale, I'm buying a few just in case.
It's very hackable. It seems like you can make it. It's so many different styles with variations. That makes a great TNT. That's awesome.
So you have multiples of the same pattern.
Oh yes. Well, see, I'm not a tracer.
Yeah, me either.
Just no.
Yep.
So, I don't mind. If it's 99 cents, I'm going to buy it.
So it's like an envelope tissue pattern, is it?
Yes. So this is one of those, I usually go to one of the big box stores and buy it. And when it's there, if I know that I just feel like I can never not have them. And sometimes I forget to put them all away. So I miss a piece or two. So I always just have a backup.
That's really smart.
It makes it easy.
I've heard of people buying multiple paper patterns, like multiples of the same one on accident, but never strategically. I love it.
I'm very strategic. I think I counted one time, and I think I have 5.
Oh my gosh! Like right now, like unopened, or like
not unopened. I have at least 3 open, maybe 2 unopened.
Oh gosh, that's amazing! I've never heard of someone having a TNT like the physical. I love that. That's
smart.
Amazing.
But and I have them in bags. So I've changed some of them. So I've changed.
Oh right, yeah.
I've changed it from a button up into like a regular placket, like a polo placket. So it's a shorter style. I've done different things to them. So though when I make those changes, I definitely put them in like a plastic baggie and save those. But I don't mind always kind of having a new one that I can start with. Or if I know that I'm making something for a friend or something like that, I buy more than one for different sizing.
What a great answer.
Let's talk other favorite patterns, because I know, Julian, you probably have a few more. I have a few. Let's get them all out there. I feel like this will be a good resource for people kind of getting started. Julian, why don't you kick us off?
So, okay. So we have the shirt. I think that any pattern by Norris and Mimi from Simplicity you really can't go wrong there.
Yeah.
From their athleisure style patterns to their more tailored style. So of course they have, he has a blazer pattern that I've currently cut out. I've never made a blazer. So this will be my first one.
Ooh.
And of course, I think you're Julian. We have similar mind frames. So anything loud and bright, I'm gravitating towards. So
must be a Julian thing.
I have some,
Yeah.
I swear it is. It is. So I have some fabric that I have in mind for that is sitting, is waiting. So I think today that's going to get cut out. But any of those patterns are great. Then like patterns, I think it's called the Milliot trousers from the Hue trousers from Milliot Patterns. Is a really great pair of pants. It can be dressed up or dressed down, and it has an elasticated waist. But it's kind of like a pair of joggers, but in a woven. So it's great in a wool suiting or something like that. If you really want something a little bit more luxe, it's a great, easy pattern with some really great details. I'm trying to think. I use a lot of shirts patterns, and they all basically look the same. It's basically only differences in their in the way that the instructions are talked about in the order of operations. So the simplicity shirt pattern is the one I like the best because it has so many different options. But let's say that you don't fit into that size range. Another one is the Simon shirt from freesewing.org. That is a made to measure pattern. Most of their patterns, they're really neat because you're literally just putting in your measurements and it's drafting the pattern for you, and it's free. So that's a great place to start. And it really is just, there is no worrying about size if you're not going to fit it or not. You do want to do a muslin just in case, just to make sure that you have the style the way that you want. Sometimes I like to increase ease in certain places and take it away in other places just to make sure that it's fitting to my comfort level. But it is, if you really want to play like full designer and you feel like I want this to fit me perfectly or fit the person I'm working with perfectly, that's a good place to start as well.
I am going to have to check that out.
I think, I think you made some wrap pants from freesewing.org, a pattern from them. And I love those. That was on my list for my husband. He would totally love those in the summertime.
They are super, super comfortable, super, super easy. That was such a quick make. And I love that they are also economical with paper because, of course, it's a paper pattern. So it basically, if you don't want to print the paper, it gives you the measurements, dimensions. So you can basically draft it on your own.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah. Nice. I love that. I have a few on my list. One was the Ilford jacket by Friday Pattern Company. That was definitely one where I was like, oh, I'm going to buy this pattern to make something for my husband, and totally tested it out for myself first and then made his. He's not mad. It's denim with flannel lining, and I love that pattern. I think I'm actually going to make it again, probably for me, but there's that. I made him the Farfar cardigan by Wardrobe by Me, and that fit him really well. He's worn it quite a bit, probably due for another one, as well as my go-to for him is the Fremantle pants by LB Textiles. And I feel like LB Textiles does have a good number of kind of unisex patterns. Fremantle is definitely one of them, but I've made those in so many different fabrics. I've made shorts versions. He loves them and wears them all. So it's definitely a TNT. But yeah, I'm on the lookout for, I'll see how the pattern that I've picked for button up goes, and then maybe expand from there with tops. Mostly it's been kind of like outerwear items and pants for me so far.
I forgot about LB Textiles. I do have their patterns. But I have a lot of patterns.
Yeah.
So they sometimes get lost in the sauce for a second. But I literally know where those are at. I had those printed. I'm like, I need to pull those out. And even Wardrobe by Me, like the Draper polo is one of my favorite polos.
Good to know.
I'm a person that I like to sew for self-care. So I just need something to sew. I don't care what it is. So I have some of those just already pre-cut, just out of scraps. And I color block them and have a good time. So there is the Draper polo from Wardrobe by Me, but then there's also the Oliver shirt from Sinclair Patterns. Both of them are great. Both of them results in really nice fitting polo shirts. So especially if you are new to serging but you don't want to just make a regular t-shirt, that's a good place to start.
Terrific, because I was going to ask for your polo shirt recommendations, because I think that's next.
Those two.
Awesome.
I made many of them.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, for next, we started golfing during the pandemic, and so Julian likes crazy golf gear. So, and it's so expensive to buy. So I was gonna, I need a nice polo shirt to make all golf shirts for him. And even when I'm shopping for golf wear too, all my golf shirts are menswear, because I figure like the women's ones are always way more expensive, and there's not as much women's golf wear when you go to shop for golf, like all the fun ones in the menswear. And so, so I'll need to make him some. But yeah, some of my faves, I have the Fremantle pants as well, but I have only made 2 for myself, none for that's on my list. But I've had really good luck with Berta patterns for my Julian. I've made him they have a good basic shirt that I've made. I've made a bomber jacket for him. I use like a moving blanket that I cut, and so it's like pre-quilted. It's super cute. I made him a couple bomber jackets, and I made him a Berta hoodie that they came out in. So I've had good luck with him with Berta, because they have like a nice for him. He's tall, and they do a good tall pattern in that kind of like German European frame. So I always have to take like 7 inches out of every length when I make Berta for myself, but they seem to fit him well. So I like Berta patterns for him when I sew. But yeah.
Cool.
They do have a really great shirt. I've used some Berta patterns, and even their coats and stuff like that is definitely modern.
Yeah.
I because of their sizing, you have to be very careful, because it stops so early in terms of the size range, and I'm usually at the top of their range. So it's like hit and miss of what I can and cannot do with them.
It's unfortunate that, because Berta does have the regular and plus size for versions for women's, but they don't have that for men's. I hope that that's something they really do consider going forward, because they do have kind of some fashion cut and like really interesting styles as well. So hopefully they can work on expanding that. But also another thing I love to do for patterns for menswear too is just I pull things from Julian's wardrobe and I just copycat the fit and stuff from what he already wears, and then I know it fits. So I just go dive into his closet and then use a lot of things that he already has and fits as patterns as well.
Very cool. Well, I, of course, haven't done much menswear sewing lately. The one thing I did make for my husband was the Sage Tee, which is also by LB Textiles.
Oh, yeah.
It's a free one. And
that's free.
Yeah, it's a free one. He loves it. He's asked me to make him more, and I've said I would, and then I haven't yet. So I should throw a little guilt on myself and put that on my list. But yeah, I recommend that one. I don't really have any other recommendations, but that one has worked out well.
Julian, I have a question for you, but I follow your stories enough to know that fabric sourcing usually isn't a problem for you. But do you feel like is it relatively easy, or is it hard to find fabric for menswear projects, knowing that there's not a really solid definition there? But can you find what you need?
So I can now, because I know what I'm looking for.
Okay.
So if you are a person who is just getting started, it could be a little bit more difficult, especially if you do not know your textiles and know exactly what you want. I think that especially at your big box stores, you can always find a denim, you can find a twill, and you can find a shirting. Now, I think a lot of people will get started with like a quilting cotton, which you can do. But it might not be in the long run the wear that you want from your shirt or from your garment. So it does take a little bit of time, but now I love to shop fabric. And I don't see it as a mistake when something that comes that is not exactly what I want. I'm like, okay, this is a new challenge.
Oh yeah.
Let's see what I can make it into. So usually I'm shopping. Sometimes I'm not shopping by what the textile actually is. I'm shopping by, ooh, that catches my eye. I want it. And then when it comes, then I'm figuring out what I want to make with it. Even I'm currently wearing a Oliver shirt out of a high key knit that I thought was thicker when I saw it, and it wasn't. So I was like, okay, not exactly what I thought, but I found a pattern, and I was like, okay, this will be fun in this, and it's fun to try. So I don't even take those moments as something it becomes an adventure.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on the mind frame that you take with it. I think I started a lot when I started sewing with a lot of wax prints. That was a great area to start, especially for shirts, because it is a nice stiff cotton that can make a really great shirt with. So once I kind of went there, I ventured through and everything like that. And I shop all around the world on the internet for fabric and have a good time. And the brighter, the bolder, glitter, all of that, I'm gravitating towards, and I'm trying to find for myself. So I see there's like no exact gender with fabric either. So just have fun.
Yeah. Cool.
I love that. And I think online fabric shopping got really dangerous for me during the pandemic, because I would always go in person, and when I couldn't anymore, it unlocked a fabric shopping beast within me. But
I did a challenge where it was a fabric buying ban, and if you broke it, you were supposed to start again. And once it was over, I realized that I think one day I was, scrolling. It was like midnight. Before I knew it, before I went to bed, I had about 30 yards, just randomly. I was like, oh no. So my friend has been trying to get me to count how much fabric I have. And I'm like, you're not about to depress me like that. I know it's a lot.
Yeah.
But it's fun. And when I touch it, when I feel it, I get ideas. That's the best way that I can do it. Because usually I'm never a person to go into a store with a project in mind. I go in to see what I want and what like catches my eye, and then the project kind of forms. So it just all depends. But I think there are even some tailoring like focused fabric shops online that you can get those really great suitings. There are a lot of dead stock and scrap places that you can find some really fun fabrics with. And especially if you're getting started, be willing to have a little fun. So that's the best way to try. But there are some great books as well, kind of like some swatch books that can help you. So if you see a fabric online and don't know exactly how it feels, if you have a swatch book, you can kind of look up the fabric and give it a feel, but also pay attention to, usually nowadays, a lot of stores are going to providing videos of the fabric with the actual ad. So you can see how it drapes. You can see if it stretches, all those type of things. So if you cannot feel it in person, that's another great way to get an idea if it's going to work for what you want to use it for.
My technique was just to buy it all. And then I think there was at one point, which I had every kind of Robert Kaufman knit they had available at a specific period of time. So I was like, I know exactly what that fabric is because I've purchased it before. And I don't know. Yeah. Online fabric shopping. We had a whole episode about it. I've had some pretty spectacular, I won't say fails, unexpected design opportunities come my way. Always part of the fun. Yeah.
I was going to say too, we talked to on a previous episode, Brandon of Happily Dressed on Instagram, and he goes into thrift stores and gets cool and that's a good cost effective way too. And you go to, Amanda taught me the world of going to a thrift store and getting tablecloths and using that as yard. It's really fun prints. And I know he made this poncho out of this blanket, and it was so cool. And I really want to, I know my Julian would love one of those. So I want to go do that. So that's another.
Definitely. I follow him and I love his makes and stuff like that. And I like to, I'm a person I go to thrift stores for throwing machines. Not usually for fabric.
Interesting.
So I might need to venture into that area, but yeah, usually I make a beeline to the machines and I'm stuck there.
Oh, you really do like machines, eh?
What's your count?
Yeah.
What's your count, Julian?
I think we're up to 41 or 42.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say like maybe 16.
8 or 9. Oh, 16. No.
Do you
No.
Do you use them all?
I use a good portion of them. So I do have some of them I purchased to give away. So some, I know people who want to learn how to sew, and this is a great place for them to start. So I do source them for that reason. I like vintage, and I like to try different ones. And I feel that a machine has a personality.
Totally.
You have to figure out what personality works for you. Meaning that I had to try many different machines. Meaning that I had to buy them.
It makes sense.
So, in my head, I make sure it makes sense.
Yeah.
In most people's, it does not. But it's okay.
Yes, I just managed to fit 3 machines into my sewing space. So, like, the thought of having to, 41, I'm like, wow. Where do you put them all?
They're not all in the sewing space. Yeah. They're hidden around the house as well. I'm okay with that. Currently, I think in my sewing space, most of them are there. So there are maybe at least 25 in my sewing space. I do have shelves that they sit on, stuff like that. And there's currently maybe around 3 or 4 that are always set up, ready to go. Mm-hmm. So
I think I would have a hard time with that, only because I 100% personalize my machines and give them personalities, and I would feel bad, and I would have to rotate through just to keep everything even and not offend anyone. Does that happen for you?
I do rotate.
Okay, good.
So, especially if one has to go to the shop,
you've got backups.
I need backup. But then they're good for different things. And, they have different memories for me. So I like my machine that I really kind of cut my teeth on is a Montgomery Ward vintage straight stitch. It is one of my favorite machines. I will never get rid of that one just because, we know each other the best.
Yeah.
But then I have a lot of Berninas. So I have, is it 8 or 9 Berninas? So a lot of them I have for traveling. So if I want to teach a class, I have a lot of the 1000 series machine, which is a mostly mechanical machine. So that's a great machine to kind of have people work on. And I know how they work. So I can make sure everybody kind of is on the same page with those machines. And then I have my mainstay of Berninas. I have a 7 series, an 8 series, and then my 8 series serger. I know how those work, and I enjoy them. And, I think that I feel like I'm rescuing them. I get most of them secondhand. So I don't want them to end up in the trash or something. So, I'm like a rescue agent.
So you do kind of humanize them. They have their own little stories and personalities.
Oh, definitely. And, and they get decorated. So they get stickers.
I love this.
They become personalized to me.
Yes. I love that. I think you're right. I think once you really know a machine, it's hard to give it up, even if you curse it sometimes, it's like a human, its faults, its strengths, and you kind of have to love both.
Definitely. And, and when it comes down to it, especially depending on the project that you're working on, I know that this machine gives me a great top stitch.
Right.
I'll use this one. Or I know that I am working on 2 projects at once, and my construction thread is different than my top stitching thread. Yep. A lot of times for top stitching, I love to use rainbow variegated thread. So I'll have a machine set up for that, and it will have the perfect top stitching that I like, and another machine set up for construction. Or I might be doing embroidery and need my regular machine, or there's just many different things. Or if I'm working on something really, really, really heavy, I might have to pull out another machine than my mainstay. I might pull out one of my all metal vintage ones. So it just all depends, but they're all fun when I get to use them. And they each, do different things, but also I like it because then I can answer questions. So for those who are interested in getting into sewing, I'm able to say like, okay, here's a great place to start.
Yeah.
If you have questions, or if you're saying that, there's an issue happening here, I kind of have an understanding of what's happening there so I can help people through it.
Interesting. I wish I had that connection with my machines. Like once they screw up something for me, like they're dead to me. They're out. Many, I'm just like, no, I like new and shiny ones. And the other ones just kind of, if I don't use them enough, I just let them, like, give them to a friend. Like if you did that buttonhole like that, like I'll never use you again for that. Like you're
you hold a grudge.
I love a machine run. I do. Kate, do you feel a connection to your machine? Like what is your relationship like with your machines?
I do. Well,
how do they make you feel?
So my main machine, as I've mentioned before, is the Singer that's about the same age as I am. That was my mom's. And then when she got a new machine to start quilting more, she gave me this one, and I have a strong connection to this one. I know its quirks and I know how it runs, and I really love it, and I can do almost anything with it. My serger was it's a Kenmore that I got in like 2004 or 5, something like that. I said, I thought about asking for a serger for my birthday, but decided not to. So my mom gave me a serger for my birthday, which was not intentional. And so I've got it. No, it really wasn't. But but because it was a gift from my mom, and it's my first and only serger. It's the only serger I've ever had. I'm fond of it. I've got I know how it works, and I know how it, I know the machine, and I kind of love it. And then of course my embroidery machine is literally the exact machine I learned how to embroider on. And so, I can embroider on just about anything because I've used a bunch of machines now, but this is the one that's the most comfortable and familiar to me. So I don't decorate them and I don't name them, but yeah, I do have an emotional connection to them for sure.
Interesting. Yeah, and that leads me into my next question for you, Julian. Do you do a lot of embroidering? What's your embroidery experience on menswear? Do you embroider a lot of your garments you sew for yourself, or is it just kind of once in a while?
It is very much once in a while. I do like it. It's fun to do. I just actually yesterday bought some different designs and was playing with my embroidery software. I have the Bernina Studio Suite, the 8 series of software. They're now on the 9 series, which offers like Wi-Fi and some really great features. But it is fun. And I have some ideas for some like jackets and jean jackets and stuff like that embroidery will be happening this season.
Nice.
I do know that much, but I do it on occasion, but not as often as I should, but it's fun when I do it.
Nice.
Yeah. I've never embroidered anything for Billy. I might have to fix that, because I feel like that's another way to just kind of customize things. There's so many good, like, quirky designs out there.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a whole other world of design options.
Yeah. My Julian wants his name on I've embroidered Julian patches on all the He wants it to look like a mechanic, you know how they have that old school. Yeah, and I've embroidered pizza on things, like to cover up a rip. So I embroider. He loves all the, and he also loves embroidering himself. Like he doesn't really know how to sew. Like he can, but he knows how to work. I think because he used to work at a t-shirt print shop, so he knows kind of the process of setting up a machine for going on fabric. So he knows the embroidery process. So he's really interested in that. But yeah, I love embroidering for him. Mm-hmm.
I have some. We have a craft consignment store here in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I purchased some wool suiting that actually is moth eaten. And I plan to use that for an embroidery project. So really kind of very visible mending in its style, and literally put like stars and different colors and stuff like that on this suiting to make something with. I finally have an idea of like what type of designs I want to use. So now it's just really about taking the time to hoop it up and get started with
What
it.
a great upcycle. I love that.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I have one more question before we close out, but I wanted to talk about kind of the menswear sewing and the Men Who Sew community. It feels like there's a lot of energy. Is it growing? I mean, it seems to be growing, but perhaps it was never gone. It just didn't have the right home or the right voice. What's your take on that, Julian?
I definitely think it's growing.
Yeah.
It is a great space to be in. I think I've met some really amazing people all around the world who are sewing masculine inspired fashion. Again, tongue tied. So it is really cool to see. I think there's some really great hashtags to follow, especially like on places such as Instagram. You have Dope Men Sew. You have Men Who Sew, Male Sewers of Instagram and stuff like that. You have different groups. I have my own Facebook group called So Manly. There are so many different places that everybody's connecting. And one of the great things is that we don't see this as competition. We want as many people to be a part of it as possible. So ask for help. We are always willing to answer questions or provide suggestions. And I think it's fun because with the sewing community, I feel like I've made so many friends, and we chat and we talk and we share different ideas and stuff like that. So, we welcome everybody, and I hope more men decide to join us. I think it is really cool, and there's so many different places to go with it, and there's so many different opportunities that we also share with each other. So as things come up and different opportunities come up that we know might not be for us or it might be for somebody else, we definitely make sure we pass that on and we cheer each other on in the process. So it is really a great place and community to be in.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for being a part of it and being a leader in that community, as I know you are, and setting the tone for that being a welcoming and supportive place, because that's so important, especially as you get started. And especially
Definitely.
if in a craft that maybe feels like, I don't know, not forbidden, but that feels more experimental, or just when you're kind of like challenging yourself in a way, you're stepping beyond what has, historically been seen as, mostly for women, and dipping your toe and coming on over and having fun. So, yeah.
Definitely. And, I think that just the community in general, I think not just men, but women have also been so welcoming and so accepting and answering questions. And it really, when sometimes humanity just does not look the way that we want it to look or act the way that we want it to act, I have found solace in the sewing community when everything around is just kind of crap. So it's a great place to kind of rest and abide and make friends in.
That's awesome. Same here. Same here. Well, let's take a quick break and then we'll be back to talk Sewjo.
All right, we are back, and it is time for our Sewjo segment, our very favorite segment, where we talk about what's giving us our sewing mojo at the moment. So I think I'm going to call on Amanda first today. Amanda, what's your Sewjo?
Well, I am still very much riding the outerwear high from our last discussion on the podcast. I am just want to make all of the jackets and the shackets and the coats. I went to Joanne the other day. I was looking at leopard print Sherpa or cheetah print Sherpa. I was like, who am I? But I was inspired and I didn't purchase it, but I might go back for some. So yeah, I'm still very much thinking about outerwear.
Very cool. Julian, how about you? What's giving you your Sewjo?
Well, right now I have been getting some really cool knits. So having fun with my sergers. So I'm really having fun with the LH60. And one of the knits is a diamond print sweatshirting. So it literally is like the diamond just all over the whole fabric. And I have a pattern for a Batwing men's sweatshirt. So that is coming up in the next few days that I'm really excited to make.
That sounds amazing.
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds so cool.
Okay, Meg, how about you?
I have 0 Sewjo right now. I'm currently in a different city than my sewing machines because we're renovating a house. So I'm gonna follow in the steps of Amanda and Kate redoing their sewing rooms. So I'm kind of in like a sewing room Sewjo. My dad's currently in there pulling up staples from the ground, and Julian's knocking down a fountain. There was a fountain in our living room, which I personally wanted to keep. It gave me a lot of inspiration, a lot of photo shoot opportunities.
Yeah.
But sadly, it's being torn down. And I couldn't witness it, so I came to my parents' house. Also, there would be banging in the background of here. Yeah. So I'm just not thinking about sewing right now. I'm thinking about my sewing room to do a lot more sewing. Yeah.
That sounds fair. Moving
sewing
is
adjacent. That counts.
Yeah. Well, and moving is a thing that takes up headspace, and it's okay to lose your Sewjo in a situation like that. I mean, it's okay to lose your Sewjo in all situations.
Yeah, I was very tempted to like come with a sewing machine, but it just, but then again, I have so much computer work to catch up on. So it's a great chance for me to just dive in and actually start sharing more things and writing about the things that I've been putting off that I've had, I have so many pictures of things that I've made that I haven't like shared yet. So gonna be doing that and tearing down some walls, which I'm so excited to get that one shot of me, demo day. Yes. I'm like so excited. But I'm unfortunate. It's going to be a lime green wall. And I've been told that we can't keep it lime green, and I'm very upset. So yeah. Anyways.
It'll be bittersweet.
House frustrations, but it's okay. Every appliance I have is lime green, so it'll be very noticeable.
Well, as for me, I am currently working on a costume for the play I'm working on, and I'm kind of franking patterning it together. Actually, it's almost done. I just need to finish hemming it. But the skirt ended up being a semicircle skirt, and I just love the way it hangs so much that I am really feeling semicircle skirts right now. It's just a very elegant hang, and I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I might just, appreciate it as I finish hemming it and be done. But that is what is really getting me right now.
Maybe after you hem it, you won't like it as much. That's been my experience with circle skirts.
Well, I'm working through it.
Yeah. No.
You can always, with that, I learned a tip that you can use your differential feed and to gather in the hem a little bit, so that when you bring it up a little bit, it's going to be that smaller bit, so it's easier to hem in that circle a little bit. Just a
nice.
thought.
Yeah, I'm just hand hemming it and easing it in. So it's working okay. It's just I only had like 15 minutes to get started on it before we had to come record, so I haven't had time to get sick of it yet.
That sounds awful. I hate hand sewing.
Yes, but I don't, so it's fine.
I know. I love that for you.
I love that for you. I love that hand sewing for you.
I just listen to my podcasts and do the sewing, and it's fine.
Oh, I'm sure. Are you going to share a picture of that? I want to see the semicircle.
Yes,
skirt.
I will try to remember to grab a picture of it.
Hot take, Julian. What's it? Hand sewing? Yay or nay?
Depends.
Oh,
depends. There are times when it's needed, and sometimes when it's really meditative and therapeutic, but not all the time.
No, I do everything on my machine. I sew buttons with I do anything possible to avoid a hand. I even use I've used glue sometimes. Anyways, I always like to.
That's a good. That's a good standard guest question.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah,
just need to know where you stand on hand sewing.
Well, considering how many machines,
I know. You better not be hand sewing. No hand sewing for you.
Anyway,
this has been an awesome episode,
so
Julian.
Fun.
I thought having you on the podcast would probably be fun, and so glad we were right. We knew we'd have a fun time chatting with you about your machines and your sewing experience and all of your helpful serging tips. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've been definitely listening to this podcast since the beginning, so it's really a fun dream to be on now.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Definitely. And of course, we'll continue. And you have so many great tips and tricks and stuff like that. So I always share it with others as they're coming into the sewing community as well.
Oh, man. You get bonus points.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This show notes is going to be jam-packed with such good resources and links, too. So, like, lots of, if any of our listeners want to try sewing, masculine styles, there's going to be some great pattern resources for sure.
All right. Well, thank you again, Julian.
Yes, thank you.
Well, thank you so much again.
Okay, well, after that fascinating conversation, let's do our Sew and Tell and answer a listener question. I think Amanda might be a little miffed at me for picking this one, but the question today is, what is your best zipper tip?
Ooh, a zip tip.
Yes.
I am not miffed. I just don't have any. I was sitting here trying to think of one, and I just followed the instructions every time. Like, don't try to wing it. Like, look at the instructions. That's all I got.
Amanda's actual tip is skip it if you can.
Yeah, I know. Do buttons.
How about you, Meg?
My tip is actually to, I have like a couple of tips. So example for invisible zippers, always press your invisible zipper teeth flat. Like it's a good tip. And then I always keep my zipper foot on, like the one-sided zipper foot, when you're getting to that point to close out the bottom of the zipper seam. So don't switch back to your regular foot. Keep that one on. That's kind of my tips for invisible zippers. But if you find a different way of doing like a zipper, any kind of zipper, and you try and it's almost like contradicts Amanda's stuff. Yeah. Like do it the way you normally would do a zipper you're comfortable, if it's that type of zipper in a garment, or just change the zipper and do it how you're comfortable doing it if you have a certain method.
What about you, Kate?
And my zipper tip is actually not exactly a sewing tip. It's something from my old theater days. Sometimes we'd have zippers that were kind of sticky, didn't want to really zip or unzip. And the solution we had was we had a couple of white candle stubs, just the ends of some white tapers, and you zip the zipper up and you rub the wax on the zipper, and then you unzip and zip it a few times, and the wax gets into the bits and it lubricates it, and it really loosens up the zipper and makes it move a lot better. And that is a vital thing to know how to do if you ever have zipper problems.
Yeah.
Apparently, I recently learned there is such thing as zipper wax, which basically does the same thing, but it's a little softer. Yeah. If you don't know where to find that or don't want to spend the money on it, a dollar store candle will do it for you.
Do the trick.
Yep.
Well, that works on invisible zippers too, probably. Those are the ones that I often,
Yeah, you have to be a little bit careful because you'll have to go in from the top because the back you can't even see the zipper, and if it's already sewn in, then you're going to have to just kind of be careful not to get too much wax on the fabric, but it should work just fine. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've done it on invisible zippers before.
Those are the ones I find really good, especially if you have seams coming together. It's like, when you're in the garment, you're like, ooh, hopefully this goes up.
It's like, this is the bad spot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, y'all, that was such a fun episode.
Great.
A couple of quick things. If you want to take some next steps, I cannot recommend Julian's Serger School installments enough. He shared 3 tips for hemming with us with a serger on the Sew Daily Network channel on YouTube, and they are great videos. They are great techniques. Julian is a great instructor, especially if you're looking to just take some next steps with how you use your serger. And I'm always looking for that because there's so much those machines can do. We also have our Wyndham quilted bomber jacket sew along live on the website. And I was thinking about this. Like, I think that's a pretty gender neutral design.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, totally. And I think, I've definitely thought about making my husband one once I make 2 or 3 more for myself. I'm a terrible, terrible human.
Yeah.
And also, you guys, 3-year anniversary of the podcast.
Oh my gosh,
Can
it is, isn't it?
Believe it?
I know. Isn't that crazy?
I don't know.
We
It
launched
feels like,
our first. Yeah. Does it feel like longer or less?
It feels
time?
like longer to me. I think because 2020 was so long.
It was a long year. I think our first episode, I think it was either November 15th or November 14th of 2018. So we've been doing this a while, and I feel like we have so much more to talk about. But
I know.
Cheers, y'all.
Yeah.
Cheers, and thank you to people who have, whether you've just joined us or you've been with us from the beginning. Every time someone tells me they listen to the podcast, it warms my heart.
Same.
Every single time. I'm so touched. It really does mean a lot on this end. So thank you for your support.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure. Thank you for accepting us for who we are.
I know.
We're not too serious, and we don't take, and sometimes we get silly, and we thank you for just letting us be us and talk about what we love to talk about, and talk to people that we think, everyone would like and who inspire us. And it's just been the most amazing time, and we're not stopping anytime soon.
Yeah, no.
Nope.
We'll just keep chatting about sewing. That's what we do.
Need to get Julian back on just to talk about. I want to know every one of his machines.
I know. I want to show and tell.
Yeah.
On Sew and Tell.
A show and tell on Sew and Tell. I think we need to make this happen.
We'll make it happen.
Yes. We will.
All right, y'all. Well, until next time.
Happy stitching.
Happy stitching.
Bye. Happy stitching.
There you go.
For links to everything we talked about in this episode, go to our show notes page at sewdaily.com/sewandtell. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at sewandtellpodcast@goldenpeakmedia.com or visit us on Instagram at sewandtellpod. Answer the Sew and Tell question, tell us your Sewjo, or just leave us some feedback. If you enjoyed our show, please subscribe on your podcasting platform of choice, and please leave us a review, ideally a good one, because that helps listeners like you find our podcast. And tell your sewing friends about us too. Thanks for listening, and happy stitching. Sew and Tell is a Sew Daily podcast and produced by Golden Peak Media. It's hosted and produced by Meg Healy, Amanda Carestio, and me, Kate Zaynard. Daisha Clay is our producer. Director of podcasts is Jared Mayer. Tiffany Warble is Director of Content. Kelsey Ratterman handles our marketing, and Andrea Lotz does all things digital. If you'd like more information on sponsoring or advertising on Sew and Tell, go to goldenpeakmedia.com.